So here we've got the new fender. It's pretty straightforward what you do when you shave a side marker light. We're gonna cut this out, and then we'll make a patch to go in here. Now, you could just take a piece of metal and lay it in here without cutting this out, and that'd probably be fine. I've seen that done both ways. To me, what cutting this out will actually do, we'll leave a nice area behind that where I can come in from back here and apply some seam sealer to the back of that new weld seam and hopefully prevent any corrosion from breaking through. So why don't we go ahead and get started. We'll cut this out and get started making a patch, weld it in. So here we've got a template to go over to our new metal. Hopefully this will get us the right shape patch pretty quick. Okay, what we've got here, you can see where we traced around the template. Got a little bit we need to shave off to get that to lay in there. So, we've got our patch fitting pretty good. Need to just maybe put a little bit of a bend in this ear to get it to lay down just right, but it's looking pretty good. Fairly quick to make the patch. What I did here was go ahead and use some self-etching primer on the back of our patch. We should still be able to access it once we get it installed, and we'll still go ahead and put the seam sealer on after we're done to protect the weld. I finally got it sitting in there like I want it. It took a little more trimming, but you know, these things take a little bit of time. And if you're not an expert, which you're probably not, or you wouldn't be watching this, do yourself a favor, take the time in your prep work, get everything as right as you can before you start welding, and it'll go smoother for you. Time to start tacking this in and moving across this dude. So here's how we've got our welder set up. We're using 024 wire, using the auto set feature on the Miller. I've got it set to 20 gauge. We'll see if that works about like we want. Sometimes you turn it up just a little bit more to get that tack nice and quick. If you go too thin on your setting, you'll actually put more heat in your metal than you would with just one good hot tack. So let's try this and see how we get along. So what we'll do now is we'll just move around, cutting our distance in half each time until we slowly have this tack together. We went around and around, and it looks like I've got it all. I'll go ahead and grind it down a bit, see what we've got, but I think this is gonna work. And then we'll be ready to go over it with some fiberglass short strand filler to catch any pinholes that may be there and to provide that barrier for any moisture coming through the back. Here I am applying the short strand filler that I mentioned earlier. There are a lot of different brands on the market. This just happened to be made by Bondo. The next step was to take the 36 grit again and knock the initial coat of fiberglass down and come back over with my first coat of body filler. As soon as the filler got ready, I worked across it with my cheese grater, roughing in my initial shape, before going back to the 36 grit on the DA sander. This revealed a high spot left over from the welds. I tapped that down a bit with my hammer and applied my second coat of filler. With that last coat of body filler dry, what we need to do next is apply a guide coat. What we've got today, for lack of anything better, is just some flat black spray primer. Spray it on, and then we use a couple of different blocks to go ahead and start getting this thing true to shape. Well, this one's giving me fits. When we welded that patch in, of course we introduced some heat, and sometimes heat does funky stuff, but we can see that we pulled a bit of a wrinkle all the way up here. That patch is what, this is the top of the patch, I think. Right in here, that might be the bottom, but this, it pulled somehow, and it's got just a slight dip here and also right here still yet. So that's, and also uncovered a ding down here, which had nothing to do with me. Just happens to be a ding in this piece. It's new, but that's no guarantee on them being straight, of course. So that's what would that be, the third round of filler. I'm gonna pull one more stretch through here, and I'll hit this while we're at it. But this one in particular is just giving us fits. But using that guide coat is a sure way to kind of identify some of this. I guess the only way to really identify it. You honestly cannot feel it, but as you can see, it's there. So let me get another coat on there, see if we can get it out. Now this is back to the passenger side, and I just started working it, but it looks like it's going to be a little more like what we would hope for. So far it looks like about got this one whipped. The last step would be some glazing putty. There's not very many, but there are some pinholes that you can see in that body filler, and a couple of deeper scratches maybe left over from that 36 grit paper. But this just makes sure we get all that filled up and don't have our primer trying to bridge anything that causes trouble later. With our glazing putty dry, it's time to block it down one more time, scuff the fender, and finally get it in primer. Now that we've got our fenders prepped and ready, we'll put some of the epoxy primer on, get them sealed up. And that'll about wrap this up. Looks like we got it just about perfect. You may notice there's a little bit of orange peel in that epoxy, and that's okay. The gun that I sprayed it with has a 1.7 tip, and it puts a lot of fluid out there in a hurry. This is all going to get 2 to 3 coats of high build 2K primer. So that's going to do it for shaving the side markers. Feel free to leave any comments on what you like or didn't like about the video. I hope it helps you. And subscribe if you want to see more of the project. Thanks.